Hello, everyone. Welcome, I guess. I'm Adam Smith, and I'm a lecturer here at York St John, and I was so flattered to be invited to speak at the launch event this evening. I see the tremendously hard work that students put into PPP every year, and annually I'm blown away by what they produce. I'm also a lecturer here at York St John, and I often get asked why I chose this profession or what I enjoy the most about it, and it honestly is the students. They're imaginative, they're engaged, they're kind, they're generous, they're enthusiastic, and I can't emphasize what a massive impact teaching has on my own research, my own thinking, even the way I live my own life. Just this last week, actually, we had a lecturer come in, Sophie Nichols, she's a poet, to discuss a poetry collection that she produced called Refugee, in which she workshopped with people who were refugees, had been refugees, many of whom had been subjected to torture. And she workshopped their experience into a body of poetry, which she then published for charity and was talking about this lecture. And it was an intense lecture. And at the end of it, she opened it up for questions. And whenever anyone opens anything up for questions, particularly when I'm chairing it, I suddenly feel quite anxious that there won't be any questions. But on this occasion, I needn't have worried because one of our first year students, without missing a beat, put her hand up to ask a question. And her question was, what can we do to help? Moments like that, they blow me away, and they happen every single time I walk into a classroom or a lecture theatre. And it's just such a huge privilege to share a classroom with so many remarkable people. And when I see Beyond the Walls being published, it makes me so pleased because I realise that this is a privilege that can finally be shared with more people. You see, in this volume, everything that is wonderful about our students is compiled and collected and presented. So when Tom asked me to be the reserve backup speaker just in case Kate Atkinson couldn't make it, I was humbled, I was moved, and I bit his hand off. Unfortunately, as you will have gathered by now, the universe has conspired to ensure that I wouldn't be able to make it tonight, which for me is absolutely devastating, and I'm sure it's upsetting for many of you as well, he says modestly. Anyway, with Kim's encouragement, I've made this video, which is a home recording of the speech that I prepared and was deliriously excited about delivering, and it goes like this. We are entering a second dark age, but the light that flickers on the screens of our iPhones from a 5-second clip of a dog sliding on some ice or something is actually blinding us from the encroaching blackness. Our civilization teeters at the abyss. The canary in the mine of British cultural life has just expired. But who are these so-called canaries anyway, with their elitist lungs, presuming to warn us of supposedly dangerous gas? Brexit Britain doesn't care. Historians and archaeologists, they're just more experts slowing down our thrilling progress towards the cliff edge with their cumbersome facts and obtrusive understanding. Now these are not my words, but in fact the words of the self-loathing liberal stand-up comedian and Guardian correspondent Stuart Lee, and I do apologise for opening on such a bleak note. But I wanted to start here just to flag how vital and remarkable it is to be gathered here this evening to be discussing literature, poetry and prose that many of you here tonight have actually had a hand in writing and publishing, and to be discussing poetry and prose and literature at this particular moment, spring 2017, because we live, ladies and gentlemen, in extraordinary times. So I teach on the literature programme here at York St John University, and there's actually a presumption behind all of the teaching here that literature and the discussion of literature is not only useful but urgent, it's a necessity. For instance, take the following claim made in the module document for a first year module we teach here called Contemporary Writing. It goes like this. This module offers a challenging introduction to the literature of a bewildering period, a literature that by turns resists, critiques and fetishizes and capitulates the strange logics of our global present. So there are two presumptions, right, in this statement. The first is that we live in a bewildering period. And I'm sure on this we all agree. We live in a world where Brexit means Brexit, whatever that means. where the President of America is being investigated by the FBI, and where suddenly there seems to be no difference between a rival interpretation and fake news, lying NBC. The second presumption, right, is that literature can actually help us to engage and understand this world that we live in. And frankly, this is a presumption no longer shared by the White House or Westminster. Within minutes of Donald Trump's inauguration, headlines revealed that his administration had plans to abolish national endowments for the arts and humanities, ushering in what critics lamented would be a new dark age in America. Meanwhile, closer to home, the slow corrosion of the arts has actually been ongoing since 2010. In 2011, the Arts Emergency Service was established to try and source funds to replace the funding that the government, our government, had cut from the arts, from literature, from theatre, from culture, not just from education. That module document I was just reading from, it presumes that we live in a bewildering period, but it also presumes that literature offers us a means of interrogating, investigating, and understanding that bewildering period. And I hope that this is a presumption shared by everyone in the hall tonight. But let me be clear. If this has ever been a universal presumption, those days are at an end. The idea of literature, or even art in general, as a privileged form that doesn't need to justify its own existence, is gone. Make no mistake, literature and the spaces in which it's written, read, and discussed have never been under greater threat. Literature and art, I don't think, should ever have to justify their own existence. But hopefully you'll see this evening as we hear from a range of daring, experimental, vital, and urgent works. We do need literature. How else can we begin to conceive, let alone even understand, our own bewildering period? I find it moving and remarkable that given all this, so many people are here this evening to celebrate the Beyond the Walls collection. A collection which, when you think about it, has done well to even exist, let alone anthologise such an astonishing body of work. Now, like I've said, I'm a lecturer on the literature programme, but I have on many occasions had the privilege of teaching creative writing students and even delivering creative writing classes. And two things always strike me. The first is students' endless fascination with death. In fact, the first time I taught creative writing, so many characters died during the first assessment that before the second, I was begging students to stop killing people. I remember saying, guys, I'm going to be reading these over Christmas by a warm fire with my family, so please only kill people if you absolutely have to. The second thing that always strikes me is actually what courage it must take to not only produce creative work, but to then share it. Because when you make something like this and you put it out there, you're putting yourself out there. And that's quite an easy thing to say. It's an expression, isn't it? Or putting yourself out there. But you really are in this context. I mean, truly, is there a more intimate written form than poetry or fiction? When you write something like this, you surrender it. You surrender it to your reader, who may read into it something you didn't even know was there. In fact, that is literally what my job is. But intentionality, what someone intends, or what you intend, is actually a very tricky thing. Because as Danny Rand reminds us in Marvel's Iron Fist, one never truly knows one's own intentions. A piece of creative writing is a reflection of who you really are, revealing aspects of yourself you might not even realise are there. A poem offers a clearer self-portrait than any Instagram selfie. So to share that with a broad, anonymous audience, that takes real courage. Reading Beyond the Walls, this volume, I find myself experiencing the same two revelations. One, there remains an awful lot of death. And two, this is the product of not only sheer graft, but courage, bravery, and actually a willingness to embrace something that many of us are all too willing to hide from, ourselves. This is an outstanding achievement, not only to compose this work, but to edit it, to design it, to publish it, to promote it and to launch it here tonight. And all of this was achieved by students. So well done, everyone. And finally, as I say, we do live in bewildering times. The threat of extinction for the arts and humanities has never been greater. Reading, writing, and discussing literature has become a radical and subversive act somehow, and that is absolutely terrifying. But reading this volume, reading Beyond the Walls, I know that we're going to be fine, because amongst these pages, I see the next generation at work, and they will see us right. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. I just dropped the mic.